So, can you introduce yourself and your background, how you started your journey on augmented reality?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bram or Bram. I followed education in communication in multimedia design. I graduated in 2018, and that was during my graduation. I already had some experience with Lens Studio, and I think it was called AR Studio at the time for just Facebook filters.
Yeah.
And that was when it really clicked for me. Like, okay, this is going to be the next platform for advertising because the reach, the lenses that I was creating, those were just insane. Getting millions of views on like the stupidest lenses I have ever built. And that really seemed to work. And during my graduation, I already got some briefs from clients, from agencies here in the Netherlands. So yeah, I'm based in the Netherlands. And yeah, that's really how the whole journey started. I'm 30 years old.
You didn't have any experience with marketing, right? So you had only experience with the design side, and you just encountered that it is good for advertising as well.
Yes, so I think my experience in marketing was limited. What we learned in the education was a lot of different subjects. So we got anything from photography to video effects, to creating websites, to strategic concepting, like really everything. So really a broad education. Marketing always stood out for me because it's something that I already did while I was following the education. So I was just building websites. Um, that was really my job next to school. And the marketing that I used there was really a local approach. I was just walking to local businesses, knocking on their door, asking if they need a new website. And that was my first experience in marketing and approaching clients and talking to clients and seeing, what budgets they have available. That was a really exciting time to kind of explore that. And now I'm just hooked on immersive marketing and the potential that it has.
But what did you learn through your communication with those clients, whoever didn't know about augmented reality at all?
I think with the first few clients, and we still have the same issues with those with new clients, is that the level of education is just really low within agencies, but also within brands. So a large portion of the marketing that we have to do is actually educate the clients in the potential that AR has. So really convincing them of the power of AR.
So if you had like 1 minute or 2 minutes, and right now on Crosstalks, like what would you say to those brands who are not leveraging augmented reality yet? Why they have to?
I would say try it. Like go small first, but just try it first. Like just allocate a really small portion of your budget towards AR. See what it does and experience for yourself the potential that it has. Because I can start shouting numbers and I can say it has like super high conversion rates and the impressions and the views that you get are mind blowing, but it's really something that they have to experience for themselves, I think, to see their brand in AR have actual potential. So I would say my advice would be start small and just explore.
What type of businesses can implement augmented reality? Because like sometimes a lot of industries kind of don't see themselves in augmented reality. How they have to ideate the process, like whenever they don't know what to implement.
I would say there's two different types. So there's enterprise, which can use AR, not really for marketing, but more for like enterprise purposes. So for example, I know Bosch uses the glasses to kind of improve their whole workflow. I would say that's a different tier. That's a different subject, one that we're not going to get into right now. But the AR marketing companies, it really comes down to the target audience that they have. So if they focus on anyone over 45, I would say you can try AR, but you're not going to find the right target audience because the 45 to 50-year-olds are not looking for AR experiences. So it's really any company that has a target audience with Gen Z or younger, those can definitely try.
Millennials as well?
Yeah, maybe. I would say not every millennial, but maybe the tech savvy millennials.
there are plenty of challenges in content creation today, right? So that was there were many issues. I'm myself from marketing side, so I wanted to implement some AR experiences and I didn't know how, so I struggled a lot. So whenever I got experience, I decided to create a marketplace and to help the both sides, because the both sides has these problems, not only the brands. So I want to show brands also the other side of the world, how struggling can be this content creation phase. And can you elaborate more like whenever brands comes to you, like what is the process, what is the mechanics, how you're starting working on the project whenever they don't have any idea what they want to implement?
Right. Yeah. So one of the key ingredients that we need in order to build great ideas and come up with powerful concepts is get a sense of the brand. So really get a feel for the aesthetic that they want to put out there, the target audience that they're trying to reach, and why exactly they're trying to reach that audience. So if they have made the decision to go into AR, what are going to be the main KPIs for that brand to go into AR? Is it going to be awareness, or is it going to be conversion of sales? That really helps me understand how we should kind of shape that whole idea, because if it's going to be about conversion of sales, you can already remove social platforms from the whole equation, because those platforms want to keep you within their platform. So they're not going to provide good results in converting people to the website of the brand, for example. And I think if it's about awareness, then definitely count in social, because the shareability is just really high there. So that's an important key ingredient. And the other is really just getting a sense of the brand and having a feel for the previous content that they created. What should it breathe? How should it feel? What should the user think while going through the experience? And what do you want them to think?
Okay, so not to take from like the blank picture, what would you do for cross creators with augmented reality? How would you approach the potential customers of cross creators with augmented reality? Like, whatever idea would you have for the specific marketplace who are targeting a marketing brand?
Wow, on the spot. Let me think about that.
Your potential clients to understand how to work with you. Like, imagine this is our discovery call. What questions I need to answer you to understand better what type of experience you could present to us.
I think the first question would be, if you're trying to reach marketing companies, what are the roles within those companies that you're trying to reach? Like, what are the people? Because it's hard to advertise towards a company. It's easier to find the people within that company to advertise. So what would be those roles?
CMOs. Let's take CMOs.
Okay. If you want to approach CMOs, then you'll need to have really powerful statistics to convince them to use AR. So I would almost create a comparison between traditional marketing and the new immersive marketing. And if you can show them examples of how they could combine the two, and that would be my advice in going in AR for cross creators, is if they have an out of home, for example, because out of homes are like a basic tool in the marketing mix. How can you use AR to improve the out of home, reach a new generation, and tick off those KPIs that they have?
But what type of augmented reality would you use for delivering this message to them?
Like on what platform? That's a good question. I would say social, because it allows them to get a feel of how easy it is to implement on the social channels. That's all the channels where those generations are present. So the CMO has a target audience that they want to reach. So if you show an experience that is already on one of those platforms, they can get a much better sense of how the end user, so their potential customer, is going to perceive the AR and where they can find it.
Understood. Okay. So what is your main challenge while talking to the client?
I think the biggest challenge is the education part, because on one hand, you have these platforms that are all still fully in development. So you have Spark AR, you have Lens Studio, you now have Effect House for TikTok, which is just launched a year ago. You have all these web AR platforms that have wildly different capabilities. So 8th Wall is one that has powerful capabilities. Then there's Blip AR, there's Zap AR, that all offer different capabilities.
And different prices.
Different prices, yeah, for sure. Yeah, 8th Wall is high up there.
Yeah.
And I think the education is most important because we have a sort of consulting role in creating those concepts. So if a brand comes to us with a really vague brief, they just want to reach an audience, they have some kind of sense of what they want their audience to feel, we have to really make a case for the platform that we're going to use. So if it's going to be Snapchat, we have to convince the CMOs or the brand manager why we want to choose Snapchat and why Snapchat is going to be the most powerful platform for this, even if they don't currently do much on Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one part of the education. And then the other comes into the integration. So when they're actually going to launch the whole experience, we have decided to stick to a niche. So we develop the ideas and we develop the projects, but we don't do any of the actual advertising. So we want to stay away from being a creative agency or an advertising agency. So we really have to kind of shape these projects and get them ready for advertising, but then educating the clients on how to advertise those projects, how to upload it to the Lens Studio platform. Or that's always a tricky thing. And yeah, that's just gonna remain the same, I think, for the course of the next years, because those platforms are just really developing rapidly.
So in your opinion, like, what is the main problem and what's the main challenge from their side? Like, why these people are not still educating themselves in immersive marketing?
I think they just don't see the power of it yet. They feel as if it's still all a gimmick, just something that you could add to a campaign.
Fun.
Yeah, it's just a fun thing that maybe 10,000 people will see, and that's about it. But if you integrate AR into the whole campaign, so if you can kind of jump into that process early when those brands are developing their ideas for the next campaign, and I can come in with, I would add AR to this element and to this element and here, then it's going to be a much more powerful campaign that uses AR, rather when the brand has already fleshed out their campaign completely, and then AR is just a small addition, and we have to work whatever is already set in stone. We just have to think like within those already bound boxes to come up with something that works.
Our creators, and you might also know, have been challenged while talking to clients that whenever they are starting this collaboration, clients are in need and want to add more and more interactions, more and more. They want to implement all this stuff and interactivity into one single effect. So, and it's kind of like always hard to explain that this simplicity always works, and how you are delivering your message to them right in the right way. Do you have this kind of problems as well?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have clients that come up with stupid ideas all the time. Where we're working on a project right now, and I'm not going to name any names, but I think like half of the screen is just a static image, and just the top part is allowing for the camera to come through, and that's just not a good creative concept. But that just kind of slipped through, and yeah, we're now going with that direction, sadly. But I think the consulting part is really important there. So we are the experts of those platforms. We know what works on Snapchat, what works on TikTok, and how to navigate those platforms much better than the brand. So the advice that we give is really important. They just have to stick to it. And if something is not going to work, then we are going to be candid about it and say, okay, I don't think this is going to work the way you intended to.
So if you can name like 3 do's and don'ts, like what would you say, like whatever works, like 3 things that usually works in augmented reality, and 3 things that do not work and are the failure of this campaign.
Okay, so I have 3 golden guidelines that I always stick to. One is make it short. So you're trying to reach an audience that has an attention span of, I think, 4 seconds or something. It's in
6 seconds, yeah.
6. Oh yeah, 6. But you have to make it so short that the story that you're trying to tell becomes obvious within the first 5 to 10 seconds, maybe even sooner if you can. So if it's a game that you're creating with like really complex game mechanics where you have to open your mouth to do this, you have to raise your eyebrows to do that, you have to move your head left or right to do this, you're just going to lose a lot. Yeah. So short, that's one do. Then make it snackable. So snackable means you have to be able to do it anywhere at any time. So whether I am on the train towards a client, for example, I have to be able to try that experience there with or without sound, because I might not have my headphones with me. Maybe even while I'm walking on the beach, I would have to be able to try this experience, or when I'm on the toilet, for example. Like really silly examples. I think these, if you make it so snackable that it can just be consumed everywhere, that's when you have like the least or like the lowest bounce rates. So that's short, snackable, and then shareable. That's the most important one when you're looking at social AR. Is you have to make sure that it makes it easy for the people that use it to create a fun story that they want to share. So they have to look good. You cannot make the user look ugly, because they're not going to be very inclined to share it. So you have to make them feel beautiful. You have to make them feel funny. And you really have to make them feel like they are in control of telling the story, but also make it really easy for them to have something that's fun and easy to share. And I think a good example of a shareable piece of social AR would be the randomizer effect that we now see everywhere. Because you start recording, you get a random result, you get a genuine reaction to the random result. So that's like the whole story that you have. It can be 5 to 10 seconds, but that's the part of the unique story that the users are then able to share.
Or even quiz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like really quick, simple to understand. So the short, that's definitely tackled there because it's easy to understand. You just move your head left or right and that's it. The snackable part is also there because you don't need sound. You just need the selfie side to be visible. And the shareable is there as well because you already start recording and you end up with a recording, which is like the barrier to share it then is much lower.
Mm-hmm. What about the don'ts? Okay, we understand that it might be the reverse version of the snacky sharing and like short versions, but like for me, like the biggest no is just to put brand logo in the center of the experience, and this is like a big no from us. But somehow, not every brand understand that. Like, so our creators sometimes are creating the experiences whenever they are implementing the logo, and it's basically making the experience not shareable because like people hate advertising.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I think the overarching effect of don't use your logo is don't make it feel like an ad. Make it feel like a fun piece of content for the user to play with, to create their own content with. And you can definitely apply branding, like, but do it subtly. So if you have like a fishing hat on your head, imply a logo there, but just make it small and make it a part of the actual aesthetic of or like part of the environment that you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, don't make it feel like an ad. That would be a very important one. And then don't make it too long, which is kind of the, like you said, the opposite of snackable, but short, exactly. But it's a really important one because it happens all the time that the brand wants to include a video of their CEO, which takes 1 minute. Yeah, no one is going to watch.
No one cares.
Well, yeah, no one cares. No one is going to watch that whole minute. So, if you're trying to make it too long, no one is going to record the whole thing, and no one is going to share the whole thing. So yeah, that would be two. And then the third don't would be don't include or don't make something for one side of the camera only. So especially when you're talking about world effects, so not the selfie side, always include something for the selfie camera. Because on some platforms, we don't have any control over what camera is going to open first. So the selfie side might open, there's nothing there, and then someone is going to get the next effect.
Yeah, great point, because like users don't know how to use the experiences.
Yeah, exactly. And you can include like a small instruction that says swap camera, but you can also just include a fun effect on the selfie side that makes the selfie side shareable in addition to the world effect that you
have. Brands are always asking the same questions around the budget, because like they are demanding the fixed prices, but it's not always applicable, and how they have to decide if they are ready to jump in augmented reality or not. Like, what is the pricing? If you have any information, like besides your country as well.
Yeah, sure. So I think one important thing with pricing is that you can agree on a fixed budget, but then you're also going to agree on a fixed scope. So there's not going to be indefinite changes. There's a fixed amount of feedback rounds, and there's only so much you can do within that budget. That would be important to communicate. So there's fixed price, fixed scope, and then there's the flexible price, but then also a flexible scope. So if the price becomes lower or the work becomes less complex, for example, the price also lowers with the complexity. And if you can, one of my favorite things is to agree on the latter, so the flexible side, because we can really include our own suggestions and just and that is really up to us. Like if we can really make a case for all the additions that we want to include, there's going to be budget to include those.
Understand. So, what type of experiences would you recommend to start with, like to those who are just stepping in augmented reality marketing?
I would say like the first advice that I would give was the start small and just experiment with it, but try to stay away from the basic quizzes and randomizers, because those are very easy to get into, but they might not be a perfect fit for your brand. So if I have a furniture brand, for example, like the quiz is not going to do, like, do I want a table or a chair? Yes, a table. Yeah, that's not going to be a very cool concept to work with. So you really have to tailor it to the product or the service that you're selling. But always start small, like just make it something fun, something silly, even if the brand allows it, and just experiment and really measure the results and try to build on that.
Okay, if I'm a furniture brand and you're saying that not to do a randomizer or even quiz, like then what type of experience should I implement to be fun and also clickable?
I mean, for the world camera, it's going to be easy, because I would just say I put one of those furniture objects into my environment, which is a really practical approach. But for the selfie side, I don't know, maybe something silly, like just have a chair on top of my head. Something silly like that, I think could already work. It doesn't really have to make sense, but you just have to make the user smile and like, oh, this is funny, I'm gonna follow them because they might put out more of it. This is just a very random example, but
yeah, I got it. So how do you see the future of AR advertising? What is the next big thing? As you already know the history, and the history repeats himself, so what is the next big thing?
I think it's easy now to talk about the Apple Vision Pro and the Meta Quest and like, but that's one step further. I would say the next big thing is that AR is going to be much more integrated within the campaigns that are currently being built and being pushed out. Now that everyone is seeing Nike do the biggest AR projects, or Adidas or Puma, they're like the really big and high fashion brands are putting out amazing AR experiences, which is already convincing other smaller brands to jump into AR as well, because they see, oh, these big brands are doing it and they've been doing it for 2 years. It must be effective. It must work somehow. So I think I'm hoping that's a change that we're going to see, that more and more brands are just going to try and jump in. And I think, yeah, if I'm like talking maybe 4 or 5 years into the future, I think the Apple Vision Pro is going to change the whole wearable headset space, just like they did with the wireless earbuds. They changed the whole industry. Touchscreen phones, they changed the whole industry. They might not be the first to come up with the idea, but they have such a powerful user group behind them that, you know, it's going to be massive adoption, I hope.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and for the last question, what would you advise to brands, like whatever they have to start working on, like from today?
Trust the process, and also trust the partner that you're going to work with to be the expert. You can do enough research to find the best expert, but definitely let the creative process up to them, instead of trying to provide creative direction from a perspective where you don't have any expertise over the platforms that they're going to use. Let them do that work, and see if it's powerful enough. And if you're not happy with statistics, don't do it again. But definitely let them do their magic and let them create a cool experience.
Thank you so much.